Welcome back, my dear friend. I'm Rose, and I'm so happy you're here with me today. Take a deep, calm breath before we begin, because the energy coming through this reading feels deeply emotional. There is something surrounding your last conversation with this person that was never fully expressed. Something was left unsaid. Something was hidden behind their words, their silence, or even the way they suddenly walked away. And today, we're going to look into that unspoken truth. Because I strongly feel that the conversation you remember so clearly is not the same conversation they remember. You may have walked away thinking maybe they really don't care anymore. But what if that wasn't the truth? What if they were saying one thing while feeling something completely different inside? The energy suggests that during that final conversation, this person was holding themselves back. They may have appeared calm, distant, stubborn, or even completely unaffected. They may have given you an answer that felt cold. Perhaps they avoided the real question. Perhaps they changed the subject. Perhaps they simply stopped explaining themselves. But underneath that behavior was something much more complicated. Fear. Fear of being vulnerable. Fear of admitting how deeply they cared. And most importantly, fear of facing the consequences of their own choices. The moment that conversation ended, something changed inside them. At first, they may have convinced themselves that walking away was the right thing to do. They may have told themselves that they needed space. They may have believed that silence would make everything easier, but silence did not make things easier. It gave their thoughts more room to speak. And now they are replaying that conversation in their mind. They remember your words, they remember your tone, they remember the expression on your face. They remember the moment you stopped explaining yourself. And there is one particular thing about you that they cannot forget. You didn't keep chasing. You didn't keep begging for an answer. You didn't continue trying to convince them of your worth. Something inside you simply became tired. And when your energy changed, they felt it. They may not admit this to anyone, but your absence has become much louder than your presence ever was. When you were always available, they could postpone their feelings. They could tell themselves, I'll deal with this later. But now there is no easy distraction. They have to sit with what happened. And that is where the regret begins. I feel that this person has been questioning themselves more than they have been questioning you. They may be thinking, why did I say that? Why didn't I tell them what I really felt? Why did I push them away? Did I take them for granted? And what if they actually move on? That last question is becoming especially powerful because they are beginning to understand that you are not going to remain frozen in the same place forever. You are healing, you are changing, you are becoming emotionally stronger. And perhaps they can sense that. There is something very different about your energy now. You may still think about them sometimes. You may still wonder what they are feeling. You may still have moments when you miss them, but you are no longer willing to lose yourself just to keep someone else close. And that is exactly what is creating this shift. They expected your attention to remain focused on them. Instead, you began returning that attention to yourself. They expected you to keep asking for answers. Instead, you started finding your own peace. They expected you to remain emotionally available no matter how distant they became. Instead, you created a boundary. And that boundary spoke louder than words. Now, I want you to understand something very important. Their regret does not mean you should immediately run back to them. Their feelings are their responsibility. Their healing is their responsibility. And if they truly want another opportunity with you, they will eventually have to communicate honestly. Not through confusing signals, not through disappearing and returning, not through watching your stories and hoping you notice, not through vague messages designed to test whether you still care. They will have to become honest, because you are no longer accepting half-truths. I feel that this person may eventually make some kind of small movement towards you. It could begin subtly. A message, a reaction, a question about something from the past, a sudden attempt to restart a conversation. They may pretend that the reason for contacting you is casual. But underneath that casual energy could be a much deeper desire. They want to know whether the door is completely closed. They want to know whether you still have feelings. They want to know if they still have a place in your heart. But there is something they are afraid of, your response. They are afraid that you have changed too much. They are afraid you may no longer accept the version of them that walked away. And honestly, they may be right, because you have learned something through this experience. You have learned that love should not require you to constantly question where you stand. You have learned that someone's silence can also be an answer. You have learned that your value does not decrease simply because someone failed to recognize it. And perhaps the biggest lesson is this: You do not have to chase clarity from someone who refuses to give it. Sometimes clarity comes when you stop chasing. That's when everything becomes visible. And I feel that is exactly what is happening now. This person is beginning to see what they couldn't see while they had access to you. They are remembering your kindness, your patience, the way you listened, the way you made them feel understood. The little conversations they once considered ordinary may now feel incredibly precious. They may even compare new interactions with the connection they had with you. And something feels missing, because what you gave them wasn't simply attention. You gave them emotional safety. You gave them a place where they could be seen without pretending. And they may not have understood the value of that until it disappeared. So, my dear friend, don't underestimate the power of your silence. Your silence is not weakness. Your distance is not rejection. Your decision to protect your peace is not selfish. Sometimes stepping back is the only way another person can finally understand what they were taking for granted. And whether this person returns or not, something beautiful is happening for you. You are becoming free from the need to control the outcome. You are beginning to understand that you deserve someone who doesn't make you decode their feelings, someone who communicates, someone who chooses you openly, someone who doesn't disappear when emotions become difficult. So if this person returns, let their actions speak. Don't be hypnotized by beautiful words. Watch for consistency, watch for accountability, watch for genuine effort, and most importantly, watch how you feel around them. Do you feel peaceful? Do you feel respected? Do you feel emotionally safe? Because that matters. The future does not have to repeat the past. If they have truly learned from what happened, they will approach you differently. And if they haven't, you will recognize it much faster than you would have before. That is your power now. You are not the same person who entered that last conversation. You have grown. You have awakened to your own value, and the energy around you feels like a turning point. Something that once felt like an ending may become the beginning of a completely different chapter. Perhaps they finally tell you what they couldn't say. Perhaps they finally apologize. Perhaps they finally admit that they cared far more than they showed. Or perhaps life takes you somewhere so beautiful that you eventually realize why this separation had to happen. Either way, you are not losing. You are learning. You are healing. And you are becoming stronger. So tonight, if their name crosses your mind, don't immediately wonder whether they are thinking about you. Ask yourself something more important. Am I becoming the person I was always meant to be? Because the answer is yes. Your story is still unfolding. The conversation may have ended, but your journey did not. The silence may have hurt, but it did not break you. And the person who walked away from you may eventually realize that the hardest thing to replace was never your presence. It was the way you loved. So keep your heart open, but keep your standards high. Let the truth reveal itself naturally. You don't need to chase it, you don't need to force it, and you certainly don't need to prove your worth. What is meant to meet you honestly will find you in honesty. Thank you for spending these moments with me. I'm Rose, and I'm sending you so much love, peace, and strength. Until we meet again, protect your energy, trust your intuition, and remember, sometimes the person who walked away doesn't realize what they lost until your silence finally becomes louder than their excuses.